can explain what it is.
So this has started on May 10th, the day of ISKCON, and the auspicious day. We started this academy and registered in the state of Ohio, and we formalized, the principles, and we are trying to learn from other institutions, especially Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education and Mayapur Institute, and also some institutions in Texas, Dallas. So eventually, we'll make this academy as flexible and robust as possible, so that we can have spiritual education, meaning seminars, retreats, workshops, and devotee community workshops as well. So that's our goal, where we can all practice Brahminical culture and also advance ourselves in spiritual journey. So that's about this. And then the tile, you all can sign whenever there's an opportunity during the day. And I would like to request Gauranga to sign first.
Sign. Hare Krishna.
You can do both. Thank you. So, this will be here, and this will go. I mean, don't say it out loud. This will go right under the lotus feet of Radha and down when we do the concrete. But I don't want this to go out of this room because there are other things that are planned.
Yes.
So, with that, I would like to request
housekeeping items.
Yeah, I'd like to request Gauranga to start.
What is session 2, Guru? When is session 2?
Probably 12:15.
Okay.
Right now it's 10:30.
10:30. Next 12:15.
Yeah, 12 to 12:15 you'll have a break.
12:15 to 1.
1:30.
1:30. Got it. Hare Krishna. Mic we have on the way. We'll start slowly. Maybe you can come a little closer. I can't be so loud like Prabhu. They also need to preserve my voice. Yeah, you can sit down also. Up to you. Hare Krishna. Can we start now? Start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Ajnanaatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः तदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरो वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादा सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितं। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यो एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषा शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशकारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Humble obeisances to all the devotees at ISKCON Columbus. Very happy and grateful to be amongst all of you once again this year. Last year I have spent some time here interacting with so many devotees, speaking on so many topics, hearing your realizations. Today specifically I was requested by the devotees here. No need of stand, just give me the mic. Hare Krishna. Much better. I was asked by the devotees here, especially Mataji, Lalita Mataji, to share whatever I know about the mood of deity worship. Methods you will definitely be taught in your academy, Blissful Academy. But only mood we will discuss today. The attitude behind deity worship, the significance of it, the importance of deity worship. Although Yuga Dharma is Harinam Sankirtan, still Sri Vigraha, Archana, Aradhana also has its own significance. So what is that significance? How is deity worship relevant for an average Kali Yuga sadhaka? That's what we are going to discuss in the next 2-3 hours. So as all of us know, we are all Rupanugas. Rupanuga means one who is following in the footsteps of Rupa Goswami. And Rupa Goswami has given us this great literature on the process of Bhakti Yoga that is called Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. We are all Rupanugas. Actually, we are all followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gaudiya Vaishnavas. But Rupa Goswami is so dear to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Kaviraj Goswami glorifies Rupa Goswami in this way. Priya Swarupe Dayita Swarupe Prema Swarupe Sahajabhi Rupe Priya Swarupe Dayita Swarupe. Rupa Goswami is very dear to Swarupa Damodar Goswami, who is a dear associate of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Rupa Goswami is the one who understood the heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutali. He understood the Manobhishta, the real heart of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and established it in the form of his books and temples. Two things. Rupa and Sanatan, their contribution for our spiritual life is twofold. One, by giving us transcendental literature. Two, by also giving us the process of deity worship. They themselves worship deities. They established temples. They excavated holy places. Not just chanting the holy names. Haridas Thakur, he exclusively focused on chanting the holy names of Krishna, and he became Namacharya. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also wanted to establish the process of deity worship, temple worship, and Shastric study through Rupa and Sanatan. So he instructed them specifically. Rupa Goswami, in his divine literature of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he enumerates 64 angas of bhakti, 64 limbs of bhakti. So they are all limbs of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. I hope all of you know this. I will not get too much into Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu at this moment. I will focus more on deity worship. So in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, we follow certain vidhis. Vidhis means rules and regulations, prescriptions and prohibitions, do's and don'ts of bhakti. So all these vidhis are meant to give us guidelines on how to engage our senses in worship of the Lord. At this moment, as struggling sadhakas or neophyte practitioners of Krishna consciousness, many sadhakas don't have the ability to emotionally connect with Krishna. There are some emotions definitely, but emotion, when it is very intense, it is called bhava. Not many are on the level of bhava bhakti. And those who are on the level of bhava bhakti cannot or do not express their bhava. It's hidden. So we cannot really figure out who is on the level of bhava bhakti. And those who don't have bhava, they try to pretend that they have bhava. They are called sahajiyas. Those who have bhava, they don't reveal it. They look like sadhakas. But most of them are neither sahajiyas nor bhava bhaktas. Most of them are sadhaka bhaktas. So for sadhaka bhaktas, the real connection with Krishna, or the primary connection with Krishna, is through senses. The mind is wandering all over the place. How many of you experience that your mind is going all over the place when you are chanting the holy names of Krishna? Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Okay. So hands are sincerely counting without missing a single mantra. Mouth may be also chanting in great ecstasy. When he chants, full world can hear. He wants to deliver entire Columbus, so he chants like that. So mouth is chanting sincerely, hand is counting sincerely, ears not sure whether it's hearing or not, but mind is surely wandering. For most sadhakas, because we are not on the level of bhava bhakti. Sometimes mind concentrates, and whole attempt in sadhana bhakti is to bring the mind to Krishna through engaging senses in Krishna's service. The more we engage our senses in Krishna's service, the more mind will come back on track and focus on Krishna, and thus help us develop an emotional bonding with Krishna. Clear? Because emotions are there in the mind, actions are there through senses, expressions through speech, right? Emotions, expressions, actions. So emotional bonding will take some time, but actions, we can do some action for Krishna, we can do some service to Krishna through our senses. That's what Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti is. Then, out of the 64 limbs of Bhakti, 5 are considered most potent forms. Very, very potent forms of Bhakti. What are they? Let's recite this shloka. Sadhu Sangha Nama Kirtana Bhagavata Shravanam Mathuravasa Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevanam. Sadhu Sangha is associating with devotees. Nama Kirtana, chanting the holy names of Krishna. Bhagavata Shravana, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Mathura Vasa, residing in a holy place like Mathura or Vrindavan, and Srimurtira Shraddhaya Sevan, serving Sri Murti, the deity form of Krishna, with Shraddha, with faith, not a ritual, but faithfully serving. Water bottle? Oh, it's there. Okay. Faithfully serving the deity form of Krishna. Out of 64 limbs of bhakti, these 5 are considered most potent. And in the top 5, Rupa Goswami kept deity worship. Interesting. If Shravana Kirtan are sufficient, only second and third limbs are to be given as potent limbs. But that Shravana and Kirtan must be done in the association of devotees, therefore Sadhu Sangha is very important. And Sadhu Sangha, Shravanam and Kirtanam in Sadhu Sangha is definitely potent, but we also need a proper ambience. We cannot sit anywhere and then do. We need to create a proper atmosphere for us to get absorbed in Shravanam and Kirtanam in the company of devotees. Therefore, Mathuravas is emphasized. And Mathuravas is definitely residing in a dham, but we can create Mathuras, we can create Vrindavans everywhere. That's what Prabhupada has created. So, when devotees come together to chant the holy names of Krishna and hear Harikatha, that place is not different from Vrindavan, because Vrindavan or Mathura are not places. They are states of consciousness. So it's a state of consciousness. The more we take shelter of the process of bhakti, the more the place becomes sanctified. Then Sri Murtira Shraddhaya Seva. It's very important, because all the place is pure and clean. Although we absorb ourselves in Shravanam and Kirtanam, devotees are around, there should be some center, visible center for our association, and that center is deity. Krishna is everywhere. It's like water is everywhere. When I become thirsty, I can drink water only in bottle, right? I need that water element, visible form that can go into my mouth. Moisture is everywhere. I can't just pick up moisture anywhere and then quench my thirst. So I need to drink water element. Similarly, Krishna is everywhere. He's all pervading, but he has to manifest in the form of a deity, in an accessible form. We very exalted devotees can see Krishna everywhere. Sthavara Jangama Dekhi Na Dekhi Tara Murti. They don't see animate and inanimate objects. They only have Ishtadeva Spurti. They only remember their Ishtadev, their dearest Lord, wherever they see, whatever they see. But the general average sadhaka does not have that maturity or consciousness, developed, evolved consciousness to be able to see Krishna everywhere. Therefore, for such people, Murtira Sevan is very much recommended, very important. Out of the 64 limbs, 5 potent forms are these 5, and one of them is deity worship. Very important. And Rupa Goswami further says in this shloka, where is it? Sakala sadhana sreshta yeyi pancha anga Krishna prema janmaya yeyi panchara alpa sanga. Sakala sadhana sreshta yeyi pancha anga. Of all limbs of sadhana, these 5 limbs are most potent. Sreshta means the best. Krishna prema janmaya yeyi panchara alpa sanga. Even slightest involvement or engagement in these 5 forms of bhakti can give us Krishna prema. Krishna prema janmaya yeyi panchara alpa sanga. Even slight engagement in deity worship or chanting the holy names can give us Krishna prema. Can someone read it instead of me speaking all the while? Yes, read this blue letters.
The power of these 5 principles is very wonderful and difficult to reconcile. Even with the faith in them, a person may defenseless can experience dormant love of Krishna simply by being connected with them.
Offenselessly, if one can engage in any of these 5 limbs, one can attain love for Krishna. Prabhupada writes like this in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Nectar of Devotion. And another interesting fact is There are 64 limbs of bhakti. Out of them, 5 are potent. But how many are remaining? 59 are remaining. Out of the remaining 59 limbs of bhakti, most of them are directly connected to deity worship. Whether it is Tulsi, worshipping Tulsi, or circumambulating deities, offering bhoga to the deities, chanting prayers in front of the deities. Many of the limbs, out of remaining 59 limbs, most of them, at least 30 plus are 34 are directly connected to deity worship. Out of 64, 34. More than 50% of the Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is centered on deity worship. So it's not a small figure. Prabhupada quotes this shloka when he speaks the translation of this shloka. Let's try to recite this shloka that emphasizes the importance of deity worship. Smeram bhangi trayaparichitam sachi vistirna drishtim.
Smeram bhangi trayaparichitam sachi vistirna drishtim.
Vamshinyasta dharati shalayam ujjvalam chandrakenam. Govindakhyam harita dubitaha keshitatropakanthhe. Ma prekshisthastav yadi sakhe bandhu sange stirangah. Smeram bhangi traya parichitam sachi vistirna drishtim. Oh, my dear friend, if at all you have any interest in any enjoyment, any type of enjoyment in this material world, better don't go to Vrindavan. Especially don't go to Yamuna. Especially don't go to Keshi Ghat. And don't see the threefold, don't see that Krishna who is standing there in a threefold bending form. Govindakhyam harita nubitaha keshi tirthopakanthe. Keshi tirtha. At Keshi Ghat, Govinda is playing his flute, standing in a threefold bending form. Don't see. You will forget everything else. You will give up all your material desires. You will give up all your plans to enjoy on a material plane, and you will become a fan of Vrindavan. How many of you want to follow this advice by Rupa Goswami? Nobody. Such a wonderful advice. You want to go to Vrindavan? You want to follow? Oh my God. Are you happy with this? Not happy. He's saying he'll follow this advice. I hope you didn't understand it. So basically, the shloka says, better go. He said, don't go. Go.
It's not saying it strictly. It's saying like it's in order to do it, and yeah.
Okay. So by emphasizing the opposite, he's emphasizing the opposite. Don't go means please go. If at all you want to give up your taste in material enjoyment, better go to Vrindavan, better go to Yamuna, better see threefold Krishna who is standing in a threefold bending form on the bank of Yamuna. And where can we see? At this moment, with this blunt material senses, we won't be able to see Krishna's form standing at the Keshi Tirtha. We have to see Krishna's deity form only. We have to see Madan Mohan, we have to see Govindji, we have to see Gopinathji or Gokulanandaji. So Krishna is standing in various forms in Vrindavan. We can only see those forms. So we can't just see Krishna like that in his spiritual form with our material senses. So seeing the form of Krishna with our eyes, when he makes him accessible in a form which we can see, like whether it is stone deity or brass deity or paint or print, whatever it is, when a visible form is there in front of us which we can access through our material senses, then it becomes easy for us to absorb in Krishna. We can't just close our eyes and then start meditating on the Lord's form, because so many other forms will come in the mind. So better open your eyes and see the deity form of the Lord, so that form is fixed. The deity is carved according to Vedic regulations, scriptural prescriptions, and also deity is nicely decorated so lovingly by devotees, and nicely dressed, ornamented, and that deity is non-different from Krishna, and seeing that deity is like seeing Krishna. Therefore, it's a recommendation that we see the Lord. Drishtva tesham ithora nrinam avagnatmanam nrupa te tretadishu harer archam haryati kavibhi kritam. The purpose of introducing deity worship at the end of Treta Yuga is many people are becoming disrespectful towards each other. One of the most important benefits of worshipping deities is we become respectful to other devotees, or we are supposed to become respectful to other devotees. Because devotees or people in general, they are not respectfully dealing with each other. At the end of Treta Yuga, Archamurti is established. So when Krishna is there personally present, standing there in the form of a deity, then the devotees become more conscious in their dealings with others. Not only dealings with others, dealings with paraphernalia, even non-living things. I think one devotee was sharing experience of going through deity worship course. Even kartals or any other paraphernalia connected to the Lord, the devotee is saying that I am able to treat them with respect. So our respect towards other devotees and even every object and every living entity connected to Krishna will increase to the degree we absorb ourselves in deity worship. We become more respectful in our dealings. Vaishnava qualities are developed by worshipping the deities sincerely. Now we have a lot to discuss. I'll go a little faster. You see this. Kriteya dhyayato vishnum Tretayam yajato makhaihi Dvapare paricharyayam Kalat harikirtanat Kalautad harikirtanat. What we achieve by doing sacrifices in Krita Yuga, what we achieve by conducting various sacrifices, Kriteya Dhyayata Vishnu, what we achieve by doing so much of meditation on Lord Vishnu in Krita Yuga, what we achieve by doing so many sacrifices in Treta Yuga, what we achieve by worshipping the deities in Dvapara Yuga, we can achieve all of them, and in fact much more in Kali Yuga by chanting the holy names of Lord Hari. Hare Krishna. So, if this is the version of Srimad Bhagavatam, then what is the significance of worshipping the deities? If Kalautat Harikirtana is mentioned, what's the significance of worshipping deities? How many of us will rise early in the morning to chant the holy names of Krishna when there is no temple, when there are no deities, when there is no regulation of attending Mangalarati in the temple? So, in the absence of an Archamurti, a deity, it's a bit difficult for us to chant early in the morning in Brahma Muhurta time. When deity worship is established, 4:30 curtain has to be opened. Means 3:45 you need to be ready and report at the deity room and make all preparations and offer Balya Bhoga and do other upacharas for the deities from 4 o'clock. 4 to 4:30 is meant for that. So deity worship will make us more regulated in our practices. Deity worship will introduce discipline. Sometime back we saw how deity worship introduces respectful dealings amongst Vaishnavas. Now we are seeing how deity worship introduces discipline and etiquette and regulation in our activities, day-to-day activities. At the end we'll have a quiz. What all benefits of deity worship are there? You can all mention. You can keep writing this. You can forget. So deity worship inspires a community to come together. When deities are there and festival is being celebrated to worship the deities, all devotees come together, cook for the deities, make garlands for the deities, make nice dresses for the deities, make nice jewelry for the deities, and dress the deities and decorate them nicely, decorate the altar, clean the temple hall, cook and feed prasadam. So thus, deities, service to the deities will bring an entire community of devotees together. Community of devotees is brought together by deities. So deity worship will induce camaraderie. Deity worship will induce unity amongst devotees. That unity, camaraderie, friendship, cooperative nature, all these are introduced by deities. Krishna will personally sit together and oversee all the activities done by the devotees, and also ensure that they develop spiritual desires. Yesterday at the construction site we were discussing, the glances of the deities on the devotees will induce spiritual desires, maintain spiritual desires, and fulfill spiritual desires. Our minds are filled with so many material desires in this material world. पिबन्ति ये भागवत आत्मनः सतहां कथामृतं श्रवणपुटेषु संभृतम् पुनन्ति ते विषयविदूषिताशयं व्रजन्ति तच्चरणसरोरुहान्तिकम्. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, by allowing the sound vibration of Srimad Bhagavatam to enter our ear holes, we are purifying our contaminated aspirations of life. Whatever contamination is there in the heart, in the form of bad desires and materialistic aspirations, all that is washed away by hearing Bhagavatam. And that Bhagavatam says, not only hearing me, you should also go and stand in front of the deities, and the glances of the deities, when they fall on you, you will develop spiritual desires. When you regularly take darshan of the deities, then you will maintain the spiritual desires. Sometimes we may have a desire, but we will forget our desires. How many of you had some desire, some plan, but after something you forgot it? Now I am not aspiring for this anymore. So because we are not able to maintain the spiritual desire. All the spiritual desires are mainly maintained and nourished by the deities. And fulfillment of spiritual desires also will happen by exposing ourselves to the glances of the deities. I think it's a sentimentalism, overly being emotional. No. Bhagavatam, one of the 5 potent forms of bhakti, emphasizes the importance of worshipping deities and the potency of worshipping the deities. In Uddhava Gita, Krishna speaks. In Kapila Gita, Lord Kapila speaks. The Lord in various incarnations is emphasizing the importance of worshipping the deity forms and how it is beneficial to all of us. Further, I went back. This is from Sandarbhas by Jiva Goswami. We saw what Bhagavatam said. We also saw what Acharyas are saying. This is from where? This is from Bhagavatam 7th Canto. Now we will see what Jiva Goswami, who did a great analysis of the Sandarbhas, who wrote Sandarbhas by doing a great analysis of Srimad Bhagavatam, what he is saying. Let's see. Can someone read? 4 devotees can read 4 statements here. Loudly.
Seeing that in the course of time was and become manifested among the devotees of the Lord. The Vedas reveal another way to worship the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam 7.14.
The Vedas revealed another way to worship the Lord, that is deity worship. Seeing what? Seeing people developing so many faults in devotees. Even while practicing bhakti, devotees have so many faults, so many inconsistencies and irregularities and other shortcomings. One can overcome those shortcomings and anarthas by worshipping the deities. Next, read the second statement. Someone else.
My dear king, when great sages and saintly persons saw mutually disrespectful dealing at the beginning of Treta Yuga, deity worship in the temple was introduced with all paraphernalia.
Some time back we even said the shloka also. Next. Third.
First means seeing the mutually disrespectful dealings, they introduced deity worship.
Next. Fourth.
Deity worship is the best means of spiritual advancement for those who have these kinds of faults. Deity worship is also described in the conversions of Brahma, Ambarisha, and other great souls as recorded in the Darshan and other scriptures.
If Shravana Kirtana are foremost, why Brahma and Ambarish Maharaj should sit together and discuss about deity worship? In fact, Ambarish Maharaj is given as a great example of doing temple worship. Savai Manaha Krishna Padara Vindiyor, we'll recite the shloka sometime later. But he is using his hands in cleaning the temple of the Lord. Karau Hare Mandiram Arjanadishi. Mandir was there in Ambarish Maharaj's time also, not only in Kali Yuga. Mandira Marjanadishu. Ambrish Maharaj, the ruler of entire Bhumandala, is taking a jhadu and cleaning the temples. Chaitanya Charitamrita is filled with stories of deities. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would every day go to the temple of Jagannath Ji and see the deity form of Lord Jagannath Ji and would go into ecstasy. And we also have Madhavendra Puri worshipping the deities of Gopalji in Vrindavan and going all the way to Jagannath Puri to get some chandan for Gopalji. And on the way, he had a very nice, sweet, loving exchange with Gopinathji at Ramana. So many deity stories in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhavendra Puri. Then Sakshi Gopal. You know Sakshi Gopal story, right? So the Lord is acting as a witness for the promise that is made by this older Brahmana to the younger Brahmana. So deities are not just some kind of carved, artificial, beautiful forms, just standing there like dolls. They are potent manifestations of Krishna. They are non-different from Krishna. They can reciprocate, they can speak, they can talk, they can walk. But all this will happen to the degree we are sincere in worshipping them. Because you have Zoom link for online classes. Even if one letter is missing there in the link may be 1 kilometer long with so many characters. But just one character missing there, you'll go into another or not found, link not found, or you will just connect somewhere else to a different frequency. But
404 error.
404 error found. But when we have the right link, then we can hear the class that we intend to hear. Similarly, when we have the right consciousness, we will be able to access the potency of the deity form of Krishna, not an ordinary thing. Prabhupada writes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita purports. Can someone read this first statement? You will only give the class today. I'll only add some comments here and there.
CC Madhya 19.15 purport. Sometimes neophyte devotees think that they can continue the Sravana Kirtana process without worshipping the deity. But the execution of Sravana Kirtana is meant for highly developed devotees like Haridas Thakur, who engage in Sravana Kirtana process without worshipping the deity. Therefore, one should not falsely emulate Haridas Thakur and abandon deity worship.
Sravana Kirtan is definitely meant for everybody. Not only Haridas Thakur, but all the struggling sadhakas also are supposed to do Sravana Kirtan. But what Prabhupada is emphasizing here is only Sravana Kirtan without deity worship is not for devotees, not for neophyte devotees. For us, to be able to constantly, continuously chant the holy names of Krishna requires so much of purity of consciousness and focus of mind. Do we have that? Although we may sit and chant 64 rounds every day, how much are we able to focus on the holy name? And how much of so many other kind of thoughts are there popping up in the mind when we are chanting the holy names of Krishna? So instead of imitating Haridas Thakur, better do some practical, physical service with your senses and you purify your mind. Because when you are chanting the holy names of Krishna, mind is wandering everywhere, right? I mean, we have to chant the prescribed number of rounds and then few extra rounds as much as possible, as much as it is practical. But when you are making a garland for the deities, okay? When you are making the garland for the deities, you are more focused on making the garland more perfect, right? But when we are chanting, we are not focusing on perfect chanting. Okay, the attention is just diverted all over the place. But here it has to be meticulous. Now, as many flowers are there on this side, those many flowers only should be there on that side. Otherwise, there is an imbalance. See, the color sequence also. Red, green, blue, yellow, orange, blue, green, red. So, as it is on the other side, replicate it. It's not copy-paste. You have to physically do it. In computer, you can copy-paste and it will come as it is. But here, you have to physically do it. How much meticulousness is required to make this garland? So now we can be more focused. Mind is more focused when you are doing a physical activity rather than chanting the holy names. I am not minimizing the importance of chanting the holy names, and we are not belittling the importance to chant some extra rounds whenever we have some time. But I am just saying that for a sadhaka, who is unable to control the mind only by Shravana Kirtan. Mind control is achieved by worshipping the deities and engaging in some physical, practical services with senses. Right? That's the point we are emphasizing. We are nowhere belittling Shravana. We'll come to that also. How to balance nicely between Pancharatrika Vidhi and Bhagavata Vidhi, we'll come to that. We have enough discussion there. All Shastric statements, all proper statements, all Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita shlokas and Chaitanya Charitamrita shlokas, all authentic stuff. We are not, sometimes when we are emphasizing one limb of bhakti, what happens is we consciously or unconsciously try to belittle other limbs of bhakti because we are emphasizing that. Deity worship is yoga dharma. Chanting is yoga dharma. Undoubtedly, chanting is yoga dharma. Okay, but deity worship has its own prominence, and we are highlighting that prominence in this current seminar. Yeah, please read the second statement.
Deity worship should be continued while in prayer and service. Even though the senses are sufficient to enable one to progress in spiritual life to the standard form of Godhead, one is nonetheless susceptible to contamination of. Consequently, special stress is given to the archana vidhi. One should therefore regularly take advantage of both the practices of Bhagavata and the Pancharatrika practices.
Thank you, Parikshit Maharaj, right? Hari. So this is from Prahalad Maharaj, where he said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnoho Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. But that shloka Prabhupada writes elaborate purport, maybe 15 pages of purport. He writes very elaborate. One of the statements is this, where he said that, yes, chanting is sufficient, yet deity worship has its own significance because it gives us that process of being contaminationless. We need to be physically clean. We need to come to the level of mode of goodness. To transcend the modes, first we need to come to the level of goodness. A flight cannot take off from anywhere. Flight has to come on the runway and then move around on the runway for a while, for at least few minutes, and from there it can take off. The 11th canto of Bhagavatam says that place, runway, where the flight takes off, that is called goodness. Outside roads and all the skyscraper buildings, all that area is in Tamogun and Rajogun. Runway is in Sattvagun, and when you take off, it's in transcendence. Of course, everything is material world, but we are just making a comparison. Right? It's just an analogy. So from runway, the flight can take off. Means we need to raise above the lower modes and come to Sattvaguna, and from Sattvaguna we can just take off to Nirguna Bhakti. So what brings us to Sattvaguna is deity worship. When it is done in proper consciousness, definitely deity worship is a transcendental spiritual activity. It's not simple Sattvaguna activity. Again, we are not bringing deity worship down to the level of Sattvaguna. Deity worship is transcendental. It is spiritual activity. It is one of the 9 limbs of bhakti, undoubtedly. But when we say we will come to Sattvaguna by doing deity worship, from our lower modes, we are trying to raise to the level of higher modes. To worship the deities nicely, we have to get up early in the morning. We have to take a bath. So we will become physically clean. Whenever you have to enter the altar, you have to take bath and enter the altar. You have to be physically clean. And when you are worshipping the deities, you can't be blaspheming another devotee while tying turban for the Lord. Right? So we will become offenseless. That is, Krishna is there. I need to be conscious. I need to be physically clean, mentally also clean. And before dressing the deities in many temples, there is this Manasa Puja Vidhi. So you first purify yourself by remembering the Lord, chanting certain mantras, chanting the Sanskrit mantras, especially while worshipping Govardhan, Shila or Shaligram. You have so many mantras to chant. So all that mantra chanting also will bring you mode of goodness, and eventually you can transcend the material modes completely. So how much intricate details are there in deity worship, and they are all meant to bring us to the Sattvaguna platform, and eventually from there we can take off to Nirguna Bhakti completely. Should I summarize this or you want to read authentic statements? Yeah, we'll discuss that. After a few slides, more details are there. Read, please read.
In the Bhakti Sandarbha, Srila Jiva Goswami describes the importance of deity worship and initiation. It is Bhagavatam's opinion that the process of deity worship is not actually necessary, just as the specific descriptions of the concept in other scriptures do not have to be followed. The Bhagavatam enjoins that even without practicing deity worship, can one achieve the complete success of human life by any of the other devotional processes, such as simply offering oneself at the lotus feet of for his protection.
Nonetheless, Vaishnavas following the path of Sri Narada and his successors endeavor to establish a personal relationship with the Lord by receiving the grace of a bona fide spiritual master through initiation. And in this tradition, the devotees are obliged at the time of initiation to begin engaging in deity worship. Although deity worship is not essential, the material conditioning of most candidates for devotional service requires that they engage in this activity. When we consider their bodily and mental conditions, we find that the character of such candidates is impure and their minds are agitated. Therefore, to rectify this material conditioning, the great sage Narada and others have at different times recommended various kinds of regulations for deity worship.
Again, these quotes are not meant to bring deity worship to the level of only sattva-guna, only to purify oneself from material contamination. Ultimately, whether it is chanting the holy names of Krishna, or studying Srimad Bhagavatam, or residing in a dham, or serving Vaishnavas, or associating with Vaishnavas, or worshipping the deities, all these activities are meant to be an expression of the love for Krishna and experiencing love of Krishna. All these 5 limbs can give us Krishna prema, can make us experience Krishna's prema for us. Krishna prema has 2 interpretations: the love that we have for Krishna, the love that Krishna has for us. We can express Krishna prema and experience Krishna prema and develop Krishna prema through all these 5 potent forms of bhakti. But one of the most important byproducts of deity worship is we come to the level of sattva-guna. Because even while worshipping the deities, we may not have so many emotions for the Lord. While cooking for the deities, most of the times, devotees prefer, I like to eat gulab jamun today. Fine, let me make gulab jamun and offer it to Krishna. So many times, deities will become like prasadam manufacturing machines. Right? To convert normal food into prasadam, deities are required. Because they are told not to eat anything non-prasadam, not offered to Krishna. So don't bring deity worship to that level. So we have a commitment to the deities. This is how I will serve you. In some temples, 6 offerings in a day. In some places, they keep the standard low for a moment, for some time, till they have more manpower, more deities to maintain the show. So they will keep 3 offerings in a day or 2 offerings in a day. Like that in Gauranga village, we have installed deities where 6 offerings and 6 aartis and 2 dressings happen for installed deities. But there are also some deities in smaller temples. We have replica of Vrindavan where Radha Gokulanand, we just keep photos and then worship them. There are only 2 offerings in a day. Morning one, evening one. Only 1 aarti in a day. So the standards are minimal, simple. So you just accept some standard. You have some deities and you commit to them this much standard of worship I can do in my current situation. I can increase later, but at this moment this is what is my standard. And don't go below that. So that commitment given to Krishna, given to the deity form of Krishna, will bring us to mode of goodness, will make us more and more disciplined, will purify us from all these material contaminations. So material world means conditioned souls are very inconsistent and irregular in whatever they do. How many of you have had an experience of making some plan, some resolution, New Year resolution, and after a week or so, resolution is gone. you're unable to implement that plan anymore. It happens, right? But in deity's case, you cannot do that. Once you have committed means forever, zindagi bhar. You have to continue that stuff. So you cannot go down. That's like an eternal obligation that you have given. Once you install the deity at a place, that worship should go on perpetually as long as existence exists, material world exists. So it should pass on to generations. You go to South India, many temples are 1000 years old, 800 years old, 1200 years old. That's still now people are continuing the deity worship. Right? How much consistency they had for generations. Generations together they're continuing. So that consistency is one important part of deity worship, and that will help us to become consistent in our own connection with Krishna. Right? What is the definition of bhakti given by Bhagavatam? Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti radhokshaji ahaituki apratihata yayatma suprasidati. Ahaituki means without any motivations. Apratihata means uninterrupted, without any interruptions. So we can come to that level. This is like Bhagavad Vidhi. Bhagavad Vidhi means that which is based on Shravana Kirtan, core limbs of bhakti. Pancharatrik Vidhi means there is a lot of involvement of rituals and procedures. That is called Pancharatrik Vidhi. That basically Archana regulations are there in Pancharatrik Vidhi. So Ahaituki Apratihata, no motivations and no interruptions. So to come to that stage, let's take the commitment of deity worship. When you're worshipping the deities, sometimes there may be some motivations. I will do Janmashtami Aarti, so that 1000 people are attending the program will see me along with the deities. And the altar, Radha and Krishna are standing, right next to them I am standing. I am doing this. Okay. And whatever people will come and click photos, in every photo I will be there. Right? Okay, you may have that desire, but that desire is fulfilled only on Janmashtami or some festivals. In the annual calendar, major festivals are 10, 12. But remaining days, without any motivations, you have to do Aarti. Whether somebody is clicking your photo or not, whether people are seeing you or not, alone, many temples you see, Pujari and deities, alone. Only intimate service. The number of personalities on the altar are more than number of people standing in the temple. Many times. Only Pujari is there. So that will help you to come to Ahaituki Bhakti, unmotivated Bhakti. And uninterrupted. Although you feel like taking some rest, there is no second Pujari available. So you have to worship the deities. Consistency. Consistent. So you come to the level of Ahaituki Apratihata Bhakti by taking it, at least forcefully. So the commitment is good, because once you give a commitment to Krishna, you cannot go back. Whether you have taste or not, you have committed to Guru. I will chant 16 rounds. Somehow or the other, you will finish 16 rounds before 12 a.m. in the night. Right? Somehow let me finish 16 rounds. You then attentive or inattentive, or one hand counting, one hand checking Instagram reels. Somehow I'll finish my rounds. Somehow we'll finish. So commitment has that potency. So deity worship is a big commitment, lifelong commitment. Of course, in a community, multiple devotees take turns in doing that deity worship, and there are few devotees who are running the show, who are coordinators. I know what a big responsibility it is. For a decade, I had to be there as a deity worship in charge. We had to run behind people, cooking, garland making, dresses, ornaments, wake up, sleeping, 2 dressings, 6 aartis, 6 offerings, ingredients purchase, budgets. Not a small responsibility that will make you more consistent, more dependent on Krishna. And when you are offering bhoga to the Lord with 56 items, or at least an average Rajabhoga plate has at least 14-15 items. If you are fed like that every day, how long you will survive? You will collapse, right? But Krishna can eat like that every day 6 meals. Valyabhog has 8 sweets, 6 milk sweets, and 1 dry fruit laddu, 1 Sompapadi. Like that we have at least 8 sweets in Valyabhog offering Every day you take 8 sweets with each sweet 2-3 items, right? Some sweet rice and ghee in it. How long can we survive in these bodies? Diabetes, what are cholesterol? I don't know what all. My doctors can decide. By worshipping the deities so opulently and feeding them prasadam so opulently, you'll realize that he is Krishna, he is God, I am not God. He is a controller, I am not controller. Only he can eat this much, I cannot eat. Only he can dress himself in such ornaments. Even in summer, the Lord is overly decorated with so many ornaments. So when we are decorated, how long can we handle it? The Lord can. When you are bathing the Lord in Abhishek, you are pouring honey. If somebody pours honey on your face, how will you feel? If someone bathes you with milk, 1 hour Abhishek continues. So many people enthusiastically pouring. So much ghee, so much honey, so much sugar water syrup. Only he can enjoy, we cannot enjoy. So deity worship helps you realize that you are not the controller, you are not the master, you are not the proprietor, you are not the boss. Krishna is the boss. Krishna is the controller. He is the enjoyer. I am not enjoyer. We will give up our enjoying propensity. The more you feed bhoga to the deities, the more you will be detached from eating. Right? You can take some mahaprasad, but I cannot relish mahaprasad like him. I cannot relish prasadam like him, Krishna. So that we'll realize. You want to say something?
To your statement.
So, they are principles.
I was living there about one announcements they made, they announced very clearly. Please don't bring non-fat items into handle full milk.
Don't be conducive in feeding Krishna. You can eat, you can cut down your meals. You can do some yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshasya karmasu. But as far as feeding ahara to Krishna is concerned, you can express your full love. Okay. Next, please read. So Pancharatrika Vidhi or Bhagavat Vidhi, Shravana Kirtan or Archan. Archan is Bhagavat, Pancharatrika Vidhi. Shravana Kirtan is Bhagavat Vidhi. Which is most important? By the way, weak in one means weak in the other. Okay, if you are weak in deity worship, we are weak in Shravana Kirtan also. If you are weak in Shravana Kirtan, we are weak in deity worship also. Sometimes, in the name of worshipping deities, we become so infatuated to decorate the deities so much, the turban will become pincushion. You understand? Pincushion, you understand? You have some small punch and you put so many things. I don't know how many. So you keep on putting like this, and turban will become full katokri. It's like a big bouquet of the flowers. So be a little sense control while you are worshipping the deities and putting some flowers. Very light flowers. Few flowers, not so many. Few ornaments, few hangings, few turban pieces. But sometimes we, out of ego, a neophyte worshipper may use the deity as a means to exhibit one's artistic skills. See how great artist am I. You can glorify me as a great artist just by seeing my dressing. So the focus is not on Krishna, focus is on getting glorification for being very artistic. Yes, we have to worship the deities and decorate the deities so nicely, especially on festivals, but the focus is to keep Krishna in the center. Turban should reveal Krishna's face nicely. It should not dominate Krishna's face. Turban, when it completely covers the forehead, where is Tilak? Where is Krishna's forehead? You have to search. So let the face be the center, and turban is just around the face, revealing the face nicely. Sometimes when the turban comes like this, altar focus lights are there. The shadow comes on the eyes of the deities. Isn't it good? Isn't it? These are some finer nuances. We are here to serve Krishna and then highlight Krishna, not highlight our own artistic skills. Sometimes when photos are taken, the photos are taken in such a way that particular jerry of the cloth is also visible in the photo. And the painting that we have done, that is more visible in the photo. Or turban that the way we have done on side. Oh, in front view it's not visible. Seen from the side view and click this portion of the photo. Yeah, you can show Krishna in side angle, but not just highlighting your artistic skills. So sometimes overly getting absorbed in deity worship and decoration and feeding the Lord, that also may make us more self-centric and indifferent to other devotees and compromise our absorption in Shravana Kirtan. Shravana Kirtan is very, very important. Deity worship, generally in temples, 7 days in a week, no puja is allowed to worship 7 days in a week, generally speaking, unless they have great manpower crunch. And even if they happen to do 7 days deity worship, some time is given in their schedule so that they can chant the holy names. And many of those devotees also get up much early in the morning, sleep early in the night, get up early in the morning, and they chant the holy names of Krishna nicely. At least half rounds or majority of rounds are completed before entering the altar. That's a very good balance of Shravan Kirtan and Archan. But sometimes the whole focus goes on the deity worship, and people are just chanting very, very mechanically. And the dressing is over. You can sit in one corner and properly chant, right? So while chanting, they look at the deities. That's good, as far as to get inspiration is concerned. But while chanting, they analyze. I should have put that turban piece. I should have put this flower there. And with bead bag in hand, they will go and adjust on the face of the deities also. Chanting is going on, and they adjust the cloth of the deities sometimes. Let's not mix up things. Little bit fine here and there, but we should not become we should not compromise on Shravana Kirtan in the name of deity worship, and we should not compromise on deity worship also in the name of Shravana Kirtan. Sometimes pujaris come for dressing seva. They finish dressing so fast. They put dhoti on Krishna as if they wear the dhoti. Okay? It's not like putting gamcha on Krishna, right? You have to present the dhoti in a proper manner and then tie it nicely and tie the turban, tie the waist belt nicely and then ornament him nicely and give whatever time is required. Don't overdo it, but give whatever time is required. When you're expert, you can do fast also. You need not compromise on the safety also, and deities are presentable also. Some devotees are expert in that. But some devotees, they focus on this fastly finishing the dressing so that they can chant. They squeeze out so much of time from the dressing time to increase their rounds. So then we are neglecting, and it's like an emotionless way of worshipping the deities. That is also not recommended. Balance is required. Proper hearing chanting and proper sadhana. When devotees are just absorbed in so much of deity worship, they don't sit in Bhagavatam classes. They don't sit in chanting circles. They chant on their own, 1 or 2 rounds while walking here and there, 1 or 2 rounds while chatting with others, 1 or 2 rounds while keeping the paraphernalia in their places. Like that, the 16 rounds will be dragged throughout the day without sufficient focus. So we should not compromise on chanting while worshipping the deities. And we should not compromise deity worship also because chanting is most important. So balance should be required. Please read this.
On one side, we are cautioned to not neglect Archana, the plea of engaging solely in Shravana Kirtan. And on the other side, we are reminded by Rupa Goswami that Shravana Kirtan are the principal means of sadhana. Namakirtana is the very life of all forms of bhakti, and for this reason, anyone who wants to worship the deity must strictly chant his fixed number of rounds. Anyone who is lax in his sadhana of chanting will also be lax in his attention to the worship of the deity.
Basically, whichever limb of bhakti we are following, we need to give the necessary attention and focus to it. We cannot compromise one while doing the other. Next. I think let's play this clip. Let's hear from Prabhupada directly. Oh, I can't see this.
It is there.
Yes.
Without hearing what you do now, then Savanam Kirtanam, this is our main business. Savanam, if you don't hear, what do you do?
You're able to hear?
You do
It's very-
sensitivity.
How do we? It's full volume here.
That we are not very much interested in
If possible, you can make it louder.
You can connect the HDMI.
Yeah.
Okay, I think you try like this. Let's maintain some silence. This speaker.
difficult. That we are not very much interested in this. And that is when our bhakti begins. Several Kirtanam Vishnu. We have to hear and we have to speak. But if you are not interested in hearing speech, then it will be sad, formula. Simply formula. And gradually it will stop. Unless there is life of Sravanam Kirtanam, this big building, temples, will become burdened. See, if you want to create burden for people, then you can give up this hearing and chanting and sleep very fast. It will be burdens. Galagraha, not Shivigraha, but Galagraha. Galagraha. Shivigraha means worshipable deity. So if we give up this Savaram Kirtanam Vishnu, then it will be calm. That our Guru Maharaj has given this pardon in the head. Follow us. So, you must be very Jala in Savanam Kirtanam. Otherwise, all this labor will be done. This willing will be less for the goal and the pilgrims. That is being done. Nobody is just thing.
So Prabhupada is emphasizing in this audio clip that deity worship can become a great burden without Shravanam and Kirtanam. When we are not sufficiently hearing about Krishna and his glories, then after some time worshipping the deities will become very burdensome, and instead of seeing the deity as Sri Vigraha, we see it as Galagraha. Just somebody is just choking me out. 6 offerings, 6 arti, kitna khaya Krishna? How much dressing we have to do? We may feel very burdensome. But when we hear and chant nicely, then the deity worship is not burden. It's an opportunity to express love. It's an opportunity to experience Krishna's love. Krishna, you have so kindly manifested in this deity form. Because of my blunt material senses, I cannot see your beautiful spiritual form. Therefore, you have become kind enough to manifest yourself in a form that I can access. I can serve. Thank you so much. You experience Krishna's love in manifesting his deity form, and you also express Krishna's love in serving the deity meticulously, seeing the deity not different from Krishna. For that, we need to do Shravanam Kirtanam. You have to chant his names, you have to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Then it's complete. So temple worship strongly emphasizes the aspect of Vaidhi Bhakti involving strict regulations, which forms the basis of Pancharatrika Vidhi. In Bhagavat Vidhi, preaching the Lord's glories and chanting His holy name is prominent. But both should go on parallelly. Can someone read the last paragraph?
No one can worship the Lord in the Bhagavata Vidhi without going through the regulations of the Pancharatrika Vidhi. Although there may be a Radha Krishna Vigraha, the worship of the neophyte devotees is acceptable only as Lakshmi Narayana worship. If we do not follow the regulative principles on the Vidhi Marga and keep our eyes trained to spot offences, we will not make progress.
Even though we are worshipping Radha Krishna deities, which are more sweet, still the mode of worship is like Lakshmi Narayana, in reverence. We have to follow the standards of reverential worship, not just intimate worship. So spend minimal time in front of the deities while dressing the deities. Minimal means whatever is required, but not going beyond time, not unnecessarily going into the altar. Maintain that reverence. Dressing time is over, you're out. Complete the service nicely within the prescribed time. It's not that I'm personal pujari, I can go anywhere, anytime inside the altar. I can have a conversation with the deities. It's a bit difficult, and neglect all other Vaishnavas. When we neglect other devotees and disregard those devotees, the deities will be displeased. Now, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita,
What is the meaning of Pancharatra?
Pancharatra, the word,
Word itself. Yeah.
Narada Muni has given that literature, Pancharatra Vidhi. I don't know, Mataji can share.
I just heard something that after five lives. So that's why it is so.
Oh, okay, Pancharatra. Good, thank you. Thank you, I didn't know that.
The last line sentence says, keep an eye straight to spot offense. Does that mean that Pujari is spotting faults of others?
Means not doing offenses. Means we can't be neglectful in our deity worship. We need to be attentive and alert so that we don't commit offenses. Then Jiva Goswami instructs that other processes such as Archana, Vandana, Dasya, Sakhya should be executed, but they must be preceded and followed by Kirtan. Means he is emphasizing on Bhagavata Vidhi. If we sincerely worship the deities, lot of chanting of the holy names of Krishna is involved in worshipping the deities. Many procedures, whether it is waking up the deity or doing upachara, shodashopachara, puja to the deities, or dressing the deities or offering arti to the deities, holy name is constantly being chanted. Then Jiva Goswami says that although Sankirtan is sufficient for the perfection of life, Archana must continue in order that the devotees may stay clean and pure. And both should go on simultaneously, as Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur has emphasized. Like you see, a train can run smoothly only on two parallel tracks. If the tracks are like this, train cannot run properly. So one track is Pancharatrika Vidhi, other track is Bhagavata Vidhi. Otherwise, Prabhupada would have established only centers of Shravanam and Kirtanam. Only lecture halls are constructed, right? Temples are constructed. Instead of constructing temple halls, he could have constructed only japa, meditation halls and lecture halls, seminar halls. That would have been sufficient for Shravanam and Kirtanam. But he also had temples. In front of the deities, we perform Harinam Sankirtan. You circumambulate the deities. You offer obeisances to the deities. What did Krishna say? Manmana bhava madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Manmana, you always think of Krishna. Bhava madbhakto, become a devotee. Krishna did not stop there. Madhyaji, worship. Whom will you worship without deities? Mam namaskuru, where will you offer obeisances? If you just offer obeisances on the road, Krishna is everywhere. People will look at you, what's happening? Why are you blocking the traffic? But you go and offer obeisances in front of the deities, that makes more sense. So Madhyaji, Mam Namaskar are very much connected to deity worship. So from the instructions of Acharyas, we can understand that both are necessary. Next. Can someone read that side?
If one is attentive in his service to the holy name, his chanting of various mantras during Archana will become an effective part of the Shranam Kirtanam process. Since the mantras contains the names of the Lord, it associates as well as glorification of his forms, attributes, pastimes, and paraphernalia.
Prabhupada writes a letter. Someone else can read this?
I am glad to learn that you are taking much interest in the deity worship, and such activities must be accompanied with chanting of the holy name regularly. Actually, chanting of the holy name regularly is our life and soul, and on the basis of such activities, all other devotional services will sustain.
So Prabhupada has emphasized on both. He was spending sleepless nights to write commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, and during the day he is also establishing so many centers and so many temples and so many deities and encouraging the devotees to perform deity worship. Parallelly, both are required. Sometimes when we overly emphasize on some things, we consciously or unconsciously belittle the other thing. So both should go on parallelly. Both are required for our absorption in bhakti and attaining the ultimate goal of love of Godhead. Ability to concentrate the mind will increase. When we are worshipping the deities, we are totally focused. No other thing. Like you cannot take your mobile phone into the altar as much as possible. And don't criticize devotees who may be doing that once in a while for some important service. Especially a manager of deity department, he is just organizing the decoration of the temple on Sharat Purnima day or on Pushyabhishek day. He is constantly on phone call. So he may enter the deity room also with phone, and then some ring comes, he comes out and then he coordinates. Once in a while it's fine. But in general, our daily worship should be centered on completely focusing our mind on the procedures that we need to follow without any distractions in the mind. So when Krishna is personally standing there, you should give that attention to the deity. Many times initiations are also organized in the temple hall so that devotees in the presence of the Lord will take their vows, will commit to Guru that I will chant the holy names of Krishna 16 rounds every day and follow 4 regulated principles. So when we make a promise in front of the deities, the promise is very potent and nobody should withdraw that promise. So that's why the deity's presence and worship of the deities will help us concentrate our mind, make us more conscious, make us more alert, make us more attentive, and that will increase our capacity to hear also. Hearing requires concentration. As they increase their service, their instinctive taste for hearing and reading becomes purified and directed towards the topics of the Lord. So generally, we have some tendency to hear and read some sensational topics, newspaper or magazines, etc. All that will be directed towards the Lord when we worship the deities. Because I am worshipping Him so much, I don't know much about Him. Let me hear Srimad Bhagavatam. I want to know more and more about Him. The more you are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, pastimes of Krishna, the more you feel like worshipping Him. The more you worship Him, the more you want to know about Him. Like that. So why Krishna will speak of whether somebody asks you, oh, I don't know much. Let me hear Shastra. Let me read Shastra. Explore more about Krishna's Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela. Then, can someone read the third point?
It follows that if hearing and chanting are to remain the heartbeat of ISKCON's devotional curriculum, and if devotees are to develop the proper qualifications for these practices, then deity worship must be done perfectly.
Okay. We have more. Whom is deity worship meant for? But we have only 12 minutes before the first break. I would like to take some questions if any devotees have questions or add any reflections, any corrections, any objections.
One of the slides says at the time of initiation, devotees is obliged to start deity worship. But currently we are emphasizing principles and chanting.
Yeah, traditionally, gurus also would instruct the general devotees, initiated devotees to also engage in deity worship. You worship Shaligram, you worship Radha Krishna deities or Gauranga deities or Jagannath Baladev Subhadra deities or Govardhan Shila. Some such instructions are also given traditionally. But it also depends on the Guru's preference and the need. What else can I have?
I don't need my. That until Bhakti Siddhanta's time, initiation was only one, and you got your Gayatri during that initiation, and you got the permission and the blessings to worship the deity. But Bhakti Siddhanta, having seen the progress of Kalyanaka consciousness, divided initiations into two, so that the first would be the preparatory phase, and once people showed their commitment, then Brahman as a second initiation in order to worship the deity. Is that your knowledge also?
One of the aspects of deity worship, one thing it brings about is the community comes together and the camaraderie that you said. Should I repeat that?
No, I heard.
You heard. So, during festivals, we see that quite often, that it really brings the community together and the camaraderie. But what I'm thinking about is in the regular, or when people are very much involved in their own deity worship at home, we don't see that participation in the temple, and morning program is practically empty. So how do we work around with that?
The community has to come together to increase their presence in the temple hall as much as it is practical. We understand there are some practical constraints, but as much as possible, if we can try to come together to do some Shravanam and Kirtanam in the presence of the deities in the temple, that's a wonderful way of increasing our absorption in Krishna. And many temples have this. And many devotees also take their homes nearby the temple in that locality. I have seen many temples let me not take names. We can also take names of good examples. Seattle, I have seen nice deities are there. Many devotees just take their homes very close to the temple. In walkable distance or just within 5-10 minutes, or within 5 minutes of car travel only, you can access all homes, and all the Grahastha devotees are just running the show of deity worship. 6 offerings, 6 artis, no concept of maid servant or other kinds of volunteers. All devotees only who are having their own corporate jobs, their household duties, and their kids. Despite all that, they are managing to do it. But it may not be practical for everybody, depending on their financial status, depending on the kind of work engagement they have, the kind of profession they have. So we don't demand it from every single devotee. But if that is a possibility, we can try to explore it. That's how it is.
Question in the same group. If you have the same amount of time,
That's okay.
if they take you behind the back.
There are people sitting in the back.
Oh, sorry. If I have the same amount of time, maybe 2 hours, and I can do an elaborate worship at home, or I can do some worship at the temple, but don't have time for both. That's like very black and white situation. But in the more subtle situations where there is no pujari at the temple. And so, can you guide in those situations?
No pujari at the temple.
Like, for example, somebody is sick or something, and I can't do an elaborate in most cases.
Devotees need to extend themselves as much as possible. The principle is, once we start worship, especially with established installed deities, we need to somehow or the other run the show. We can borrow manpower and we can request devotees to just stay there full time, do something, do the needful to not compromise on the basic standards that are established for the installed deities.
Raghunath Prabhu in Chowpatty had taken a seminar some time back, and he had, would you concur with it? He had said something to the effect that home deities are expansions of the main temple deities. So if in a rare situation you have to compromise the worship of your home deities so that the main deities are taken care of.
Yes.
Is that an
Yes, of course. Temple deities are priority, definitely. Home deities, like secondary for community.
I mean, just to add to that, what I heard from Zora as well last one, in one of the seminars he gave on deity worship, that the home deities will observe the main deities' energy. So even if you, for some reason, you give priority to the main deities, your in-house deities are also considered as worship as they absorb the energy of the main deities.
Any other question?
So, by deity worship, does it mean that we need to have installed deities at our home? For example, I live in Vrindavan in the temple community. I don't have any installed deities at home. My deity worship is always at the temple. Is that
Perfect. Okay. That's good.
So sometimes I've seen that devotees have installed deities, and for somehow or other, they stop coming to the temple. They say, "Oh, I don't have time. I've installed deities at home." So I feel that when you live in a temple community, it's better to serve deities at the temple. Otherwise,
Again, I don't want to say anything that kind of intrudes into the fine sentiments of a devotee, right? They're coming to temple, but they're worshipping their own personal deities also. Nothing wrong in it, as long as temple worship is not being compromised. So we need to acknowledge the emotions of devotees also. But at the same time, temple devotees are priority. As long as that is not being compromised, and somebody is worshipping deities at their home, we can't penalize them or criticize them.
but I'm saying they stop coming altogether because the home deities take so much of time, like dressing, bathing, cooking, everything. So I'm especially talking about when devotees live in a temple congregation, like
temple campus itself.
Yeah, exactly.
They need to try to come as much as possible. They need to come. If they have a vow for their own deities, that's fine. Maybe their spiritual master must have instructed, or they have their own sentiments. And there's not much need in the temple also. Other devotees are running the show. They're able to manage the deity services. So they can prioritize, but at the same time, not at the cost of neglecting. There should not be disrespect towards the main deities, but you can always worship the other deities. You cannot get into extremes. You need to respect the finer sentiments of devotees, and let's not immediately judge them or label them and discourage them in whatever they are doing. You can always tell them, "Oh, you can once in a while come to temple also and participate here also. Festival you can come here also." But the principle of worshipping the deities is being honored by them. Any other question?
Thank you, Prabhu. So my question is regarding the standards. So you had mentioned earlier that once we set a standard, then we should not go lower. So we should be careful when we are setting the standards. And this is not for the temple, because for temple there is a set standards, right? That's given by.
I spoke about temple only.
Okay.
I don't know much about home. I live in temple.
I'm coming to the home standards. Sometimes we set standards which are more practical for us, but if others may not agree or may not like the way we are performing, and then it may it may lead to some conversations where we may have to now start raising our standards and compromise on other things. So is there any
at home? Yeah, at home.
Like minimum standards.
You can keep minimal standards.
What is the
it's in principle keeping minimal standards is okay, but who are the deities that you are worshipping at home also matters. Gauranga, Jagannath, Baladev, Subhadra, they are most preferred. Radha Krishna worship is most elaborate. Even at home also, if it is Gauranga, then things are more simpler. With Radha Krishna, we need to be more conscious. Shaligram and Giriraj Govardhan at home means like you cannot, we have to worship them perpetually, and many devotees carry the deities wherever they travel and they try to worship the deities wherever they are. Some minimal offering they do. These are my travel standards and these are my regular standards. And they leave the deities in another devotee friend's home. These 3 days, you please worship the deities. I'm going for Sadhu Sangha retreat. Right? The 3 days I am not around, you please worship the deities. And they also worship the deities along with their home deities. So like that, some kind of, again, deities bring devotees together. That principle is there. Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I was more going towards that. Actually, you picked my brain on this. That I was trying to that, okay, here example that somebody gives deities to somebody, some other devotees while they're traveling, but sometimes they also rest the deities while they're gone. For Shaligram Shilas also, we have heard that okay, you at least minimum is you bathe, offer tulsi every day. But then what I'm not aware of is that is there a minimum where minimum standards that like even at the temple, when we should not have long nails and beard, this and that. Clothes should be clean. But at home, not all the time that's happening.
All the time we don't take bath before touching the deities at home.
No, that is
No, not morning bath. During the day.
Oh, yes.
During the day I'm saying, not morning bath. After we had 6-7 hours of sleep, we can't touch anything before. Holy name, okay. As soon as you get Krishna, you can say that. But you cannot say, Aligram, come here. I'll offer you bhoga. I don't know, bro. Home deity worship, I don't know. That's why I said, my premises I have said, mood. Methods, you can have some experts. That was message also. I'll focus on the mood. And attitude and importance, significance and Shastric perspective. As far as practical deity worship is concerned, I have zero experience on home deity worship, either in guidance or personally doing it. So I only acted as pujari in the temple, and I don't know much about cooking and all. I have deity dressing and then overseeing everything. That's the scope that I had. It's violence to give guidance without experience. So I'll not speak on anything that I don't know. Yes, Prabhu.
When we got our home deity, again, the consciousness of deity, like temple, home. Consciousness was different at that. Now you have 2 more sons. One son plus one daughter and 2 more sons. So basically, what Maharaj was saying is like, just like how you feed them, everything. So the same consciousness has to be there. So we are trying to follow the same thing at home. And at the same time, now we are working from home. So, anytime morning offering, afternoon offering, evening offering is there. The same way, like, we do morning arati and evening arati when we were going to work. So now we have an opportunity to do morning, afternoon, and evening arati. So, whatever standards we set, we try to follow sincerely. We can increase based on our situations. Like, the 3 years back situation was different. Now it is different. So we have an opportunity to increase.
Yes. Sometimes at home there are very small children. There are very small kids. The parents have to give so much of attention to them. 1-year-old babies, 2-year-old, 3-year-old. But when the children are little grown up, parents get little extra time. That's where they can raise the standard. So these are various constraints. The Lord will see the heart. He will see how sincere are we. Are we not doing something deliberately out of disrespect or circumstantially? or helplessly. The Lord will note that. He's Bhavagrahi Janardana. So he will not penalize us. That's why let's not keep very elaborate standards at home. That's what is recommended, general recommendation for general devotees. Unless the devotees have all the external situations set in control, they will not take up more responsibilities upon them. Or keep a photo, that's the easiest thing to do. If you have forms, 3D, three-dimensional forms, either brass or marble and all, naturally we have to give that attention. We'll take break. Please.
Follow for 1:15, we can start the second.
Hare Krishna. Welcome back. So whom is deity worship meant for? Sometimes there is an understanding that deity worship is meant for neophytes, not for elevated devotees. Not necessarily. Deity worship is especially meant for neophytes, but even elevated devotees also worship. We have devotees like Rupa Goswami, Gadadhar Pandit, they are worshipping their deities, Radha Govindji, and Tota Gopinath. Then Gopal Bhatt Goswami is worshipping Saligram Shilas, and when Saligram Shila manifested as a Radharaman deity. So we have examples of several great devotees, exalted and evolved devotees, self-realized devotees, those are in the prima stage, also meticulously worshipping the deities. And if you go to South India, my God, Ramanujacharya, Anantacharya, so many exalted Vaishnavas are also worshipping the deities. And in fact, in certain sampradayas, the main lead Mahant or Sampradaya Acharya will worship the deities, others will just assist him in deity worship. Deity worship is given that seat. And it's a privilege. So while advanced devotees do smarana, sometimes these advanced devotees, they don't worship elaborately the deities because of their advanced age or their personal preference of just doing Krishna smarana. They engage their younger ones, descendants or followers in worshipping the deities. That's about exalted devotees. Let's come to other categories of devotees. It is especially meant for sadhaka grahastas, especially those who are opulent, they have a lot of wealth, a lot of money. They need to utilize that money in worshipping the deities. Otherwise, money which is not engaged in Krishna's seva could become a great distraction in devotional service. And deity worship presents a wonderful opportunity for us to divert that money in Krishna's seva. And Lakshmi is used in the service of Narayana. Lakshmi feels happy, and the person who has that Lakshmi also becomes happy. Then Agni Purana says, any householder devotee circumstantially unable to worship the deities must at least see the deity worship. See their deities being worshipped by pujaris. That also will give them some success, because sometimes people may not be able to worship the deities elaborately. Sudama Brahman, he doesn't have food to eat only. What will he worship the deities? We can at least witness deity worship. Aartis, attending Aarti, attending Abhishek ceremonies, attending or taking darshan of the deities. This is also a part of deity worship. However, if there is an opportunity, personally engaging oneself in deity worship also is recommended, especially for opulent householders. Then, this I kind of covered it. Bhakti is defined as service to the Lord using the senses. It should be done with the intention of pleasing the Lord, free of other desires and unobstructed by other processes. I hinted it when we were recollecting Ahituki Apratihata Yayatma Suprasidati. Worship of the deities must not be materially motivated. Krishna is staying in my home or in my temple, in our temple. So it's my privilege, it's my fortune to express my love for Krishna in the form of some service. But I am not doing this service for recognition, not for photos, not for name, not for fame. Sometimes it becomes like a competition. Who will get the most privileged service? Who will offer the Maha-Arti? Who will do the festival dressing? You should put me for festival dressing, not for normal dressing. You should give me Mangal-Arti, not Vaikhalika Arti. You should give me Radha Krishna deities. Gopalji, Gauranga. I will worship Radha Krishna. Right? Sometimes amongst the deities also there is some kind of preference. Of course, sometimes the devotee may be very specifically attracted to a particular form of the Lord or particular deity. Out of love and affection, they may prefer. I will worship only Radharani. I will dress Radharani only. I may not dress Krishna. Fine. Why you want to worship Radharani? One thing, my liking. Second, she doesn't wear turban. It's easy. Right? Putting turban is like, it requires too many artistic skills. I won't be able to do that. So let me just dress Radharani. That's fine. Lack of skill or some extra affection, that's fine. But sometimes there is some desire for public attention. If there's any tinge of material motive there, desire for public attention or some extra privilege, visibility, photos, this and that, so many other things. You can click photo, not an issue, but worship of the deity is primary. These are some finer nuances where our attitude is tested. When we serve the deities in the right attitude, then the Lord will be pleased and the Lord will be very happy to bestow all his benedictions. And the greatest benediction is Krishna Prema. Next. We know this, Manmanabha Madbhakta. Shravanam Kirtanam also, we discussed it. I want to take more questions this time. And Krishna is the enjoyer and we are the servitor. That mood should be there. This is something which Prabhupada highlights in the third canto 15th chapter purports. We know the essence of all the processes of bhakti is Smartavya satatam Vishnu vismartavyo na jatachit. Always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. That's the essence of all the scriptures, all the rules and regulations of all the scriptures. But how many people can handle that smarana? So, to be able to remember Krishna always is not so easy. Prabhupada says, for a smaranam is shravanam, for a smaranam is archana. You actively hear about the Lord. That's a better way of remembering the Lord than directly trying to remember. Because when we close our eyes to remember the Lord, so many other remembrances will manifest. So, Shravanam is more practical than Smaranam. And Archanam is more practical than Smaranam. Instead of closing your eyes and meditating on some forms, better open your eyes and see the form of the Lord. And that seeing of the form of the Lord has its own benefits. Deities can be made in any of these forms. I think in the online class that we had, how many were there? In the online session that we had? Only few. I think some of these points are shared. Deities can be manifested in any of these forms. Sand, clay, stone and all. This, you remember? We shared. It all depends on the attitude with which we approach. When we have the right attitude, our approach will be, our result will be better. Madhishna darshana sparsha puja stutya bhimandanaihi. In the various angas of bhakti that Kapila explains in the third canto of Bhagavatam, 29th chapter, he says deity worship is one of the prominent ones. Madhishna darshana sparsha. Dhishna is deity form. Darshana, see that form. Sparsha, touch that form. Puja, worship that form. Stuti, praise that form. Abhivandanehi, offer obeisances. So he puts deity worship as one of the foremost angas of bhakti. Even in Bhagavatam, Bhagavata Vidhi, Bhagavatam is speaking about deity worship. Then Bhutesha Mad Bhavanaya Satvena Asangamena Cha. Also we need to develop a detached and spiritual vision. And we cannot just give so much importance only to the deity and neglect the devotees or offend the devotees or disrespect the devotees. One who disrespects the devotees while worshipping the deities, the Lord will not be pleased to accept such a worship. We'll discuss about that a little more. Mahatam Bahumanena, respecting all the devotees. Deenanam Anukampaya, being compassionate upon normal people. Maitriya Chaivatma Tulyeshu, friendship with Atma Tulyeshu means people who are little equal to us. Yamena Niyamena Cha, and also following the rules and regulations prescribed. Adhyatmika Anusravanam, hearing about the Lord. Nama Sankirtana, chanting. Arjavena, simplicity. The deities must be dressed opulently, but the devotees must present themselves in a simple manner. Simplicity is very important, Arjavena. And simplicity is not just in the physical attire, simplicity in the mood. When the mind is very crooked, diplomatic, duplicitous, hypocritical, cunning, manipulative, then in that mood, if we worship the deities will find our worship very unpalatable. So mood is very important. Simplicity, Arjavam. Arjavam is simplicity, Saralata. Then Nirahankriya Tatha. Nirahankar means no false ego. Sometimes while worshipping the deities, a pujari may think, I am the deity. Or anyone to access the deity, they should go through me only. So pujari. Telugu, how many people are from Telugu, Andhra? Okay, quite a few. Half the crowd is Andhra. There is one saying, Devudu Varavachana Pujari Varavadani. Means the Lord may give you boons, Pujari will block it. Pujari will not allow that to reach the devotee. So they are at the entrance, right? So they feel a sense of closeness to the deities and the ridicule common devotees who do not have that closeness. That's a bit very unpleasant. The Lord will not accept, will not be happy with such a worship of a devotee who disregards other living entities. Kapil personally says this. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutatmavasthitas sada tamavajnaya mam amartya kurute archa vidambanam. Avagna means disregard. If you disregard other living entities and do archan of the Lord, it's vidambanam. It's just an imitation. It's like kids imitate. When you are when mother is cooking, kids will imitate the mother by taking some toy utensils. Oh, I'm making paratha, I'm making paneer fried rice, I'm rolling chapatis. They're not doing anything. They're just playing. They're imitating the mother. So that is imitation. Our actual worship becomes an imitation when we disregard other living entities. Second point is dvesha. Dvishataha parakaye mam manino bhanna darshanaha. Dvishataha means lot of hatred towards other living entities. Not just devotees, other living entities. Anybody, if you hate or envy, the Lord will not accept that worship. It's like offering oblations into ashes. Criticism, unnecessary criticism. There is something called constructive criticism, where you speak, where you point out the faults in a person only to help them grow. Hey, you are doing this. This is not correct. Can you please do like this so that your work will become more accurate? Like that, you point out faults in another person to help the person grow. That is fine. But if you unnecessarily find fault with them only to discourage them, demean them, disrespect them, show off one's knowledge, pressurize them, subdue them, just to show your superiority. Sometimes we give corrections to other people, although they don't need to be corrected. Sometimes we just to show off our knowledge and just to make them aware that I know, I'm experienced in this, we speak out. Although it's not necessary to speak every time. So that kind of dominant mentality, pressurizing mentality, or bossing over mentality, especially in devotee circles, that will make one lack peace. They don't experience that peace. Avamanatah means criticism or insulting people. So we will not have peace of mind because the outlook is to constantly establish one's superiority over others. Some experience in deity worshippers will come. The younger ones are doing the worship. They can help. They can correct when some things are going wrong. But even if nothing is wrong, they speak out only to show that they're experienced, only to announce that they're experienced in this field. So sometimes when they speak, the younger ones become a little discouraged or demotivated. If the younger one is getting discouraged because of false ego, that's a problem. We're not speaking about that. They're genuinely worshipping. The experienced person comes and then chastises them, finds fault with them, discourages them. They feel like, why am I doing here? You only do, na? Why did you call us? Why did you call us and engage us in this worship? And you are finding 100 faults in us, dominating us constantly. They feel little discouraged. So that we should not do. So offenses in bhakti, even if there are some mantra chanting is little inaccurate, the Lord can tolerate. But if you disrespect another devotee, Lord cannot tolerate that. If you discourage, somebody came with a genuine desire to serve, and you speak such harsh words and disrespectful words that they just run away from there. Some major offense they do, major mistake they do. They are going for deity worship, Abhishek, you made paraphernalia, spending 45 minutes you have made paraphernalia, and this guy came and dropped it. Right? Then that's a time you can chastise. And your chastisement is irrelevant. But some small things you keep on bossing over them, the Lord also will feel uncomfortable. And such a person who has a bossing over mentality, they create such negative ambience and negative vibrations in the altar. And the entire altar becomes heated up, surcharged with negative vibes. Because the deities must be worshipped in a jolly mood, happy mood, pleasant mood, not in an agitated mood, not with anxiety in the mind, not with some pressure in the mind. Corrections also must be given in a very loving manner, friendly manner. Right in the altar, when the devotees are worshipping the deities or serving the deities or decorating the deities, if somebody speaks something negative, seriously, in a wrong mood, inappropriate mood, then other devotees will feel little discouraged and the Lord will be displeased to receive worship. Because he just chastised the other person. Other person is going in the altar and then offering bhoga. With what mindset will he offer? What's there in the mind? Anxiety, guilt, or shame is there. You shamed the other devotee who came for deity worship. And when he is worshipping with that feeling of shame and feeling of guilt and feeling of disappointment in the heart, then the Lord is not very pleased. So we need to be jolly. Jolly means not hyper excited. That's not jolly mode in deity worship. But be happy, be pleasant, be calm, be cool, be composed. In anxiety, we may create some damage to the deities. When the mind is somewhere else, thinking of some with some anxiety in the mind, we may consciously or unconsciously hurt the deity souls. If you're thinking of something else while carrying the turban, the pin will go into the deity. It may hurt the deity. And sometimes, for example, Radharani bangles are there. Use your two hands. I'm telling you, with sufficient experience and observing so many things, use two hands to put the bangle. Now, regularly, normally devotees will take a bangle and then to do like this, okay, with one hand. For human beings, it's fine. But for delicate, fragile marble deities, if you put a bangle with one hand, sometimes the bangles have springs, they're little elastic, and if they're made of metal, and you try to put with one hand, it just hurts the deity, right? When the elastic just contracts, it hurts the deity. The marble may get chipped off also. When there is scratch on the deity's body, we are scratching our spiritual life. Extreme extreme care has to be maintained when you're putting this. There are some sharp edges in some jewelry, especially earrings, for example. How they are made is with some stick, naturally. Human beings, they just put their stick into their, insert into the holes in the ears, and from there behind there is a stick. That may not be possible for the deities. Sometimes deities' ear also have some holes, or sometimes deity ears do not have holes. So you need to stick with tag. So when you cut that little stick, ensure that you file it nicely so that the sharp edge will not hurt the deity. And put sufficient tag, not so much tag that it covers the jewelry itself, but sufficient tag which is hidden nicely and holds the jewelry nicely. And that little tag, if it touches the hair will get spoiled, wig will get spoiled. And on top of it, especially these ears, the deity ears are very delicate. Little bit of marble is hanging there. When you put even slightly more pressure than required to put the earring there, if you are not careful, that little thing gets broken also. You need to be extremely careful. And even deities also must be made with good care, that they are sturdy and they stand like that for hundreds of years. The deity material also has to be chosen like that. The deity stone with which the deity is being carved, that has to be chosen properly, very carefully. Sometimes many temples do 2-3 sets. And one set they will finalize. One is for features, second is for the quality of stone. Sometimes they take a nice stone and they start chipping, and then they understand the stone is not proper. Discard that stone, take a new stone. Of course, all that may not be the consideration of the deity worshippers. We are talking about already established deities. But there, when you are putting your jewelry or and other things, you need to be very careful. We are offering obeisances to the deities. Better avoid. Obeisances you offer on the ground, outside. Inside the temple, you don't put your head at the lotus feet of the deity directly. Sometimes devotees have this sentiment, directly put the head. And rather his hand is like this. When you lift your head, if your head touches like this, what will happen to the hand? I'm not speaking what will happen to the head. What will happen to the hand? It's okay, if something happens to the head, it's okay, it will be normal. Especially marble deities. If it's a brass deity and you may break your head, nothing will happen to the hand, but it's an offense still to mishandle the deities. Person is standing there. So these are finer nuances. Gauranga, sometimes their hands are like this. The gap between the hands of Gauranga and Nityananda is very less. There, when you are putting shirt or putting some bangles, you need to be extremely careful, especially the fingertips, which are very, very delicate. When you are putting some rings there, don't press so much. It's very delicate. How much energy you have to put to hold this garland? Sufficient. If you just hold it tightly, the flower will be squeezed, right? So whatever energy you are putting to hold a flower or hold an apple, that much pressure only you put when you are putting, especially the stones on fingers and earrings here. Nathani, for example. You are putting Nathani here. Don't put tag inside the nose. Right? It's outside. They have to breathe also. Radharani has to breathe. Lalita Devi, Vishakha Devi, they have to breathe. And it has to nicely hang like this. These are getting into details of the dressing, but basically care. Don't create a very tense ambience in the altar by being in a wrong mood and spoiling the mood of other pujaris. Especially during dressing, you have to work with 2-3 other pujaris who are also on the altar, depending on how many deities are there on the altar. There, we need to be very careful not to create a negative ambience. And at home, again, we should not have a negative ambience at home. And the deities will regulate our emotions. Because deities are there, although in anger we have to speak 2-3 statements, it will come to one statement only. Because deities are there, we are a little conscious. Our behavior will become naturally sattvic when the deities are present, are supposed to become sattvic. Then realize and understand that everybody is a servant of the Lord, potentially a child of the Lord. Therefore, I should respect everyone. So, natural respectful attitude will be induced by worshipping the deities. Then, okay, this I think we discussed in that seminar. I will not elaborate on it. Someone read this.
The devotee offers eatables in the form of vegetables, fruits, leaves, and water to the hearts of Vigraha. The Lord, being Bhakta Vatsala, compassionate upon his devotee, accepts the offering.
Next. Savai Manah Krishna Padaravindayor we discussed, or we have not discussed, we can go through it at your home. This we recited here, I mean in our online seminar. Should we do it? Jihve kirtaya keshavam muraripum cheto bhaja sridharam vani dvandva samachaya chakata shrodradvayatmashunu krishnam lokayotanagaya hare gacchantri jigara pranamukundapana tulasi modhanamadhokshanam. This one shloka describes various activities that we do as a part of our deity worship. Jihve kirtena, praise the Lord. Muraripum cheto bhaja, be conscious of the Lord in your mind. Bhaja Sridharam pani dvandva samarchaya. With your two hands, you worship the Lord. Achyuta kathaha srotradvayatvam srunu. With your two ears, hear the Lord's pastimes. Krishnam lokaya, see the deity form of the Lord with your eyes. Gacchangri yugmalayam, go to the temple of the Lord with your legs. Jighara ghrana mukunda pada tulasi, with your nostrils, smell the tulasi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. Murdhanam adhokshaja, offer obeisances to the Lord with your head. All these are connected to deity worship. This is Mukundamala Stotra by Kulashekara Alvar. And the tulasi leaves transformed even the four Kumaras. Just by smelling the tulasi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, impersonalists became personalists. Because we are personalists, we believe that God is a person and he has a form. Deity worship is important for us. We are not impersonalists. Sometimes when a transcendentalist or a spiritualist is not so much connected to deity worship or even seeing the deities, they may consciously or unconsciously have impersonalistic tendencies also. The Lord is everywhere. I can just access the form, access the Lord anywhere. What is the need of any personal form? Then we don't feel like going to the spiritual world also. We don't feel like meeting Krishna also. Krishna is everywhere. I don't need to see him personally. It's okay. Yeah. So personalism means we believe that God is a person and has a form. And when they saw the form of the Lord, when they smelled the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, then four Kumaras became personalists. Tasyara vindanayanasya padara vinda kinjalika mishra tulasi makaranda vayu antarkatah swavivarena chakara tesha Samshobhamapsharadusham apichittatanvo Tasya aravindanayasya padaravinda. These are the beautiful lotus feet of the Lord. He smelled the tulsi leaves offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. They became transformed. And coming to deity worship paraphernalia, the Maha that comes from deity worship. Uddhava says, Tvayopabhukta sraggandha Vaso lankara chachita Uchishta bodhino dasa Savabhayam jayevahi Tvaya upabhukta sraggandha. Srag means garlands. Gandha means sandalwood pulp. Vasa means clothes. Alankara chachita, all kinds of other decorations. Upabhukta means the Lord has experienced, Lord has enjoyed them. So, Uchishta Bhojino means the remnants of food that the Lord has eaten. If we honor them, if you honor the Maha garlands, if you honor mahaprasadam, if you honor Maha sandalwood pulp, if you honor any paraphernalia of the deities, Tava Mayam Jayemahi, we will conquer Maya. Uddhava is saying this. We can conquer Maya by honoring the Maha of the Lord. So never underestimate the potency of Maha garland, which is offered to the deities. Never underestimate the potency of mahaprasad. We will never, generally. Mahaprasad we will never underestimate. But other paraphernalia also we need to give that value. And Maha also, if it is cake, if it is pizza, we can value this Mahaprasad. It's a Mahaprasad. Non-spicy khichdi Mahaprasad. Once it is offered to the deities, we can honor it. We have to honor it. That will help us overcome Maya. This is the wake-up prayer. So savadabhra karuno bhagavan vivriddha premasmitena nayana guruham vijrumbhan utthaya vishvavijaya yachalo vishadam madhyajirapanayata purusha puranaha so savadabhra karuno bhagavan vivriddha. Lord Brahma chanted this wake-up prayer right in the beginning of the creation to wake up Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu. Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu is lying on the Garbhodaka ocean. Brahma appeared from his navel and he saw Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu and chanted this prayer. And this is the prayer which we chant before waking up deities in the morning. We get up, we wake up the deities. First we wake up and then we wake up the deities. Then we chant this prayer. You know what is the significance of this prayer? Oh Lord, you are Adabhara Karuna. You are extremely compassionate and merciful. Prema Smitena, with your loving smiles. Nayanam Guruham Vijrumbhan, open your eyes and shower your loving glances along with your smiles. Utthaya Vishwa Vijayaya Tanno Vishadam. You please destroy all the Vishada, all the lamentation of all people in this world. Vishwa Vijayaya, let there be victory in this whole Vishwa, this universe. For him, his daily service is to create the universe. Brahma's daily service is to create the universe. And we have our daily service. We have so many services during the day. It could be profession, it could be family, it could be temple services. We have some services. Let there be success in that service. So we are waking up the deities early in the morning and asking them to shower their loving glances upon all of us so that we are empowered to do our daily services. Without seeing the deity form of the Lord every day in the morning, if we try to do our services, we may think we are the doers. But if we offer prayers in front of the deities, when you are traveling, you may keep some deity photo at least. That's the first thing that many devotees do after they get up. See the deity form of the Lord. But as soon as people get up, they see Instagram. They see, what is that? Facebook. As soon as they get up, instead of doing that, social media, they can see the deity form of the Lord and allow the deities to shower their loving smiles and glances upon us and offer a prayer. Oh Lord, please allow my daily services to become successful. I want to serve you. I want to offer these services to you today. You glance upon me and empower me to do that services. That's how Brahma's day begins. That's how our day also should begin. So Brahma's deity is Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu directly, and we have our own deities. Then Madhyagirapanayata Purusha Puranaha. Please speak. May you lovingly speak so that we are encouraged and we are enlightened to do your service. And what is that speech? Srimad Bhagavatam. So every day we need to do three things. See the deities, hear Bhagavatam and chant holy names. That's how our day should begin. Let the day begin with showering, begin with nourishing ourselves with the glances of the deities and chanting the holy names and hearing some Harikatha. That's a wonderful way. You can even keep some quota. Chanting though, no compromise. 1.5, 2 hours, 16-hour rounds, it will go. Here, little bit of Bhagavatam, at least 1 hour is great. If you can't, at least 15 minutes of audio clip or video clip. There are so many YouTube videos now, Harikatha. So let's begin the day with some little Shravana and also see the deities. Offer obeisance to the deities. Few minutes standing in front of the deities. So that's a glorious way of beginning the day. Madhavendra Puri's devotion, dedication and determination in deity service is unparalleled. The Lord personally said, "You please excavate me." Madhavendra Puri is a sannyasi. But the Lord says, "You worship me." Sannyasis also, not only grahasthas. Pragada premere swabhava achar nija dukha vignadira nakare vichar. When there is a lot of prema, then even though there are some difficulties in getting up early in the morning to worship the deities, devotees will just get up. You see, sometimes Mayapur there is floods. Devotees are going, you saw that pictures? Devotees go in boats and worship Radha Madhava. Devotees are submerged till their waist level in the water and they are worshipping Narasimha. And some places they are extremely cold. Still, devotees get up early in the morning and worship the deities, break ice and take bath and worship the deities. So this is how devotees exhibited so much of faith in the process of deity worship. Pratima nahi tumi sakshat Vrajendra Nandan, vipralage kara tumi akarya karan. You are not a pratima, you are not a statue standing there. You are Sakshat Vrajendra Nandan. This young Brahmana in the Sakshi Gopal episode, he had that faith and simplicity to believe that the Lord is, the deity is the Lord himself. And to the degree we have faith in the form of the deity, to that degree the deity will reciprocate. This young Brahmana said that you are not a pratima, you are Lord himself. And he said you should come and give Sakshi. And Sakshi Gopal said deities don't walk. And this Brahmana said if deities can talk, they can walk also. So the Lord is defeated. Logically, this devotee defeated the Lord and Lord said, I'll walk. What is the proof that you are walking? You are asking me not to look behind. He said, you will hear my anklets sound. So that's how he walked. So to that degree he had faith, therefore he got this reciprocation. Of course, we may not expect the Lord to walk for us. Only if he walks like he walked behind the young Brahmana, I will worship the deities. We cannot say that. But we can understand the potency of the deity, and to the degree we are faithful, to that degree deities will reciprocate. We will examine again. Okay, I think we will stop here. There are many more things. This one very interesting thing. Hasam Hare. I think let's conclude with this. Hasam Hare Ravagata Kinaloka Tibra Shoka Shusakara Visoshana Vatyudaram Sammohanaya Rachitam Vijamaya Yasya Bhumandalam Munikrite Makaradhajasya. One last point on the potency of deities. The conditioned soul, while experiencing material miseries, has created an ocean of tears. And when we see the beautiful smile of the Lord, the ocean of tears is dried up completely. When can we see the smile of the Lord? When the Lord manifests himself in the form of a deity. See the smile. How many of you had this experience when you are in tremendous anxiety? You went and stood in front of the deities, 5 minutes of prayer, seeing him. Your mind automatically calmed, right? That's the beautiful smile of the Lord. Material beauty agitates the mind, but spiritual beauty pacifies the mind, calms the mind. The deity's beauty is spiritual, not material. When somebody goes in front of the deities, the lust automatically calms down, is pacified. Anxiety pacified. Fear is eliminated. That's how deity darshan has a great impact on our consciousness. One more thing. Sammohanaya rachitam nijamaya yasya bhrumandalam manikrite makaradhajasya. Sammohanaya rachitam. Oh Lord, you have manifested these beautiful eyebrows by your spiritual potency. These eyebrows are like bows, and your glances are like arrows that are coming from the bows. When we expose ourselves to the arrows of your glances, we will be saved from the arrows of Cupid. Cupid is showering his arrows upon us, constantly instigating conjugal desires amongst people, and then instigating and inspiring and provoking conditioned souls to come in contact with the opposite gender. So please protect us from the arrows of Cupid. Kandarpa darpa hara sundara divya murte Kanta kuchambruha tutmalalola drishti Kalyana nirmala gunakara divya kirte Shri Venkatachalapate tava suprabhatam Kandarpa darpa hara sundara divya murte. The Lord can completely steal the pride of even Cupid. When we see the beautiful form of the deities, we will overcome lust. Lust is one of the prominent reasons why a conditioned soul stays in the material world. And by seeing the form of the deities, our lust will be eliminated, or whatever attraction we have towards the opposite gender's material form, external form, which is a manifestation of illusory energy, that will go away. We'll become more spiritually enlivened. That's the power of taking darshan of the deities. What to speak of touching them, bathing them, worshipping them, dressing them, feeding them, offering obeisances to them. Just by seeing the deity form, one can be protected from the glances of Cupid. Kandarpa koti kamaniya vishesha shobham. That's the potency of Krishna. And we can realize all the descriptions of Krishna's beauty as described in Bhagavatam when we worship the deities. When we hear descriptions of Krishna's beauty, Varaha, Pidam, Natavara, Karnayor, Karnikaram and all, but when we actually worship in the deity form of the Lord, we understand, oh, Krishna is really so beautiful. And as the more we worship the deities, over the years, their youth increases, their beauty increases. You see, pick up any temple, see the photograph of the deity of the temple 10 years back and compare it to the deity now. It's not just the lighting and decoration, even the faces also that they glow by receiving the service of the deities, by eating 6 offerings. they become more and more nourished and chubby and happy, and sometimes in some temples the outfit also does not fit to the deities because they have become little healthy, chubby. And sometimes you see they are very their expressions also keep changing. Of course, sometimes because of lighting also they may change, but depending on the mood of the devotees also, the expressions of the deities will change. So Prabhupada, deities are very tired. Are you offering them this many offerings every day? Prabhupada asked, no, there are some financial constraints. Prabhupada, they arrange the funds. You worship them, they look a little weak. They look a little tired and fatigued. So devotees can even detect the emotions of the deities because they have emotions. Exalted devotees can do it, but for us, let's follow the Vedic process. There are a few thoughts, any questions or comments?
So, Prabhu, this one point about not committing masses, that this is one of the points that don't disregard, don't have hatred or criticism for other devotees or other jivas, you say. But unfortunately, it's there. It's very visible and can be experienced. You just have to step in front of some any devotee. So I would like to know if you have any thoughts on how. So you would explain that for seniors, they should not do it for juniors or whatever it is. But what should be the attitude of a junior when something happens to them? That how can they not get so anxious that their offering the deities also is disturbed, but not get too agitated? What should be the attitude of
Tolerance. Prabhupada writes in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, seniors, even if they do some mistakes sometimes, they should not be offered even a verbal fight. That's a general etiquette. Prabhupada also makes a point that if they are like Bhishma and Drona who take the side of adharma, forget verbal fight, you can even throw arrows also. That's what he told Arjuna. Krishna told Arjuna. But in all general cases, we need to tolerate. Even if they're chastising, let's tolerate. Our patience will calm them down if they're really agitated. But if there's a reason for their agitation, generally speaking, someone who has been around for a while, those who have little maturity, they wouldn't chastise others for no reason. There must be some reason. If there is a mistake on my part, and when a senior is chastising me for my mistake, let me be honest enough to accept the mistake, realize the mistake, admit the mistake, apologize for the mistake, try to rectify the mistake, try not to repeat that mistake, repent for the mistake, and remember the mistake. 8 points. Right? For your question, eight answers are given. But if they are getting agitated unnecessarily, sometimes mistake is this much and reaction is that much. Parikshit made a small mistake and he was cursed to die in service. Chittakas made a small mistake, he was cursed to become a demon. But both of them tolerated, they did not retaliate. But we may not have that much tolerance. Right? Then at least while doing worship, don't escalate the matter. For example, if two people are fighting, one person is unnecessarily getting overly agitated, the other person also gets agitated, then that will agitate the other person even more. That will provoke the person to shout even more. The fight will increase. Service will get compromised. Okay, let me deal with this person a little later. Let the worship be over. Let me be patient. Let me be calm. Let me not take it so seriously. Once the worship is over, after that, take an appointment, sit with them, clarify things if at all you have to clarify, and ask them what makes them. You can switch off the mic in your lap. What makes them so angry like this? So you can just inquire. If they have some other issues, then you can always try to resolve them by discussion. But in the altar, let's maintain composure. Any other question? Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, sometimes some devotees give gift, deity says they would like to give deity says gifts, but the other person is not ready to worship him yet. So there are two perspectives. One is like Krishna is willing to come to your house, so we should not say no. But other side is that we are not ready to worship them, we don't have the capacity. So what is your
Depends on who is giving the gift. Somebody who is very exalted, senior devotee, or a sannyasi, or guru, or shiksha guru, or diksha guru, some very senior, mature devotee who knows you sufficiently, is offering a gift out of love and affection. We can try to accept it and then try to worship to the best of our ability and also have a discussion. It's not like one-way thing. Take the deities and worship. They will not say like that. They will say, and then you can also express, this is my situation currently, and there's some kind of discussion, negotiation, and they will say keep these minimal standards. It's not that nobody will forcefully give you. But if you have hesitation, you can express that hesitation and get a clarification. But some people, they don't want to do it. They don't want to worship. Let me give it to somebody in the form of gift. So you need to be a little careful. Take guidance from seniors like that. But when it is offered by a senior devotee as a well-wisher who knows this very well, then we need to respect it and value it and accept if it is possible for us. If it is not, then express it honestly. Then after some discussion, if they still insist, then we can take it. But immediate reply should not be made. Immediate reply should be at least an attempt to honor it, especially when it comes from a senior person. If it comes from not so senior, like someone around, then we can always communicate. I'm not yet ready for it. You can find another qualified candidate. I also have my duties at home. I have other responsibilities. I don't want to accept it and commit an offense. You can always clarify it. We can't be sentimental and emotional. If you exhibit sentiments and emotions at that moment, later we have to face the consequences when we commit some offenses. Better clarify.
That's a follow-up question on the same thing. So, because these are home deities, so the tendency is that, okay, somebody is giving deities as gift. Anyway, home deities are different from the installed deities or temple deities. So it's okay, meaning the tendency is to worship, I put a very low standard, maybe once a week do offering or once in 2 weeks, whatever. So,
offering should be a daily affair. Once in a week dressing is fine. Once in Ekadashi dressing is fine, but offering should be, how much we are offering to our body every day? 2 times, 3 times? Those many times I have to offer to the deities also. At least to take prasadam. Yes, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
no, that was one point. Another point is that we always try to distinguish between installed deities where product pratishtha is done versus home deities where they are welcome but there is no proper installation, formal installation. So the human tendency is to take the lowest or least possible option to serve them, meaning, okay, anyway, these are again, it comes back to the same point, that we become relaxed or laxed. We do not pay attention that, okay, these are home deities. Still, they are Krishna. Other than Krishna, we have to be careful. The tendency is gone because we distinguish between the home deities versus, so we become more relaxed.
The distinction is presented mainly to highlight the importance of temple worship and also inspire people to keep the home deities as like expansions are secondary to the main temple deities and also not to scare them by saying that, hey, such a big thing, it's like too much burden for me. They should not feel like that. To keep it very easy, keep standard simple, worship the deities. They are Krishna, and they are Krishna depending on our consciousness. When the consciousness is not proper, even temple deities, installed deities also are not Krishna for a person who is not in proper consciousness. But when person is in proper consciousness, when devotee is in proper consciousness, even home deities can enter their dreams and they say, I want this item, you offer it to me tomorrow. That also can happen. So we cannot underestimate the potency of any deity. Deity is potent, home deity or temple deity, dham deity, deities are potent to the degree we are conscious in worshipping them. But nevertheless, these distinctions are also there. Temple deity takes primary prominence for a community, and home deities are there definitely. We need to worship them, but temple deity takes more prominence. Can you conclude? Yes, sir.
So, you have distinguished very nicely between culture, and practicality. Now, sometimes there are some devotees who are naturally inclined more towards Bhagavad Gita and they don't have that much interest in Pancharatma Gita. And then, but you said, okay, Prabhupada said, right, that no, all of them has to go hand in hand. If you do this, then other things will also come. You do Pancharatma Gita, then Bhagavad Gita will also come very nicely to you. So, but in some cases, naturally, some devotees, like, it's just not in me to do the deity worship. But sometimes somebody says that it's naturally not in me to read on regular basis or listen to classes. So is that
got it. Got your concern. Basically, in what mood are we giving importance to one over the other? That matters. Again, mood. Let me give you an example. Showing back to the deities in a temple is disrespect, isn't it? Stepping on the shadow of another devotee is disrespect. It's an offense, right? But how do we attend Guru Puja in most temples? Showing back to the deities, most of the temples. Some places, deities are here and proper deities like this. So you kind of don't show your back to the deity, you show your side profile to the deities. Okay. But most temples, Prabhupada is right in front of the deities, opposite. He is also taking darshan whole day. There, when you have to face Prabhupada, all the devotees are together showing back to the deities. Are they offending the deities? Or all the devotees are showing their back to Prabhupada? Are they offending Prabhupada? The point is the mood. To worship a pure devotee, you are turning your face towards the devotee. In that attempt, you happen to show your back to the deities, but not out of neglect. Right? Similarly, in the case of Pancharatrika versus Bhagavata, some devotees have natural taste for Bhagavata, natural taste for Shravanam and Kirtanam, but they don't have disregard for deity worship. And some people have natural taste in deity worship, but they don't disrespect Shravanam and Kirtanam. They don't say, worshiping the deities is main thing. हमेशा भागवतम लेके पढ़ते रहते हैं. That kind of disregard and disrespectful attitude towards the other limb of bhakti is the offense. But you don't have disrespect towards other limb of bhakti. Shravanam Kirtanam, you value it. And you value and respect all the devotees who are observing Shravanam Kirtanam. But you have some extra liking for deity worship, do it. No problem. Or you have extra liking for Shravanam Kirtanam, you want to chant more rounds. Deity worship is not that interested. That's fine. You are not disrespecting, but you like that more. So any one limb is sufficient. That's what Rupa Goswami said, right? Of the 5 limbs, any one limb is sufficient. But your absorption in one limb, if it creates disrespect towards other limbs, that's a problem. That's an offense. You don't disrespectfully stay away from other limbs, but you respect it, but you have special life. Even within Bhagavatam also, for example. Some devotees naturally like some pastimes. They like Prahlad Maharaj's pastime more than other pastimes. They like Dhruva Maharaj's pastime more than all other pastimes. They like Krishna's Vrindavan pastimes more than Dwarka pastimes. It does not mean they are disrespecting other cantos of Bhagavatam. They have their liking. Some like Gajendra more. Or both. Yesterday I want more description of Gajendra. So last year I spoke Gajendra. Again we are asking the same topic. Oh, I want to hear once more. Last year lecture I had already 10 times. I want to hear it once again. They have that special attraction toward that pastime. But they are not disregarding other pastimes. Yes, how many questions would you take?
So I was going to ask like what Alanka was asking, right? Like what is our mood, right? Like we should not disrespect others. But what I also observe, right? Sometimes let's say someone senior is asking you to do something. So now everyone has their mood, right? Someone like distribution, some like temple services, some like deity worship. Everyone has their mood, and when like a senior person is asking you to do a certain thing in their mood, and they're trying to tell you, you should do only this, right? You should only do book distribution, you should only do temple service. So it's not like you disrespecting the service, but when you ask and when you say no, you kind of feel guilt, right? Like I'm saying no to this. Is it more important or that is more important? It's kind of very bewildering, right?
Bewildering, confusing, and taxing to the brain. But answer is simple. The whole spiritual life is based on aligning with the will of Guru. We may like to do some things, but when Guru tells us to do something, we happily and enthusiastically do it. It's not my preference. It's what Guru expects from me. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado. Sometimes many of our likings are based on our own mind's desires or intellectual concoctions or egoistic tendencies. Our subtle body drives our decisions and preferences. But Guru knows how to serve Krishna better. So we align with Guru's will. However, Guru also would not push us beyond certain extent. Initially, Guru may push, do this, not that, this. So all that is a part of training where Guru kind of tests this surrender of the disciple, and Guru also helps the disciple to become more humble and more detached. Detachment is not just detachment from material opulence. detachment from one's own obsessions and opinions and infatuations also. So that helps us to cultivate the mode of humility and surrender. At the same time, Guru also notices, is this devotee genuinely attached to this limb of bhakti? Then let me direct him towards that limb. Initially, there may be little push or quote unquote force, or request or instruction, whatever you may call. But after some time, Guru understands the mode of the disciple also. Then Guru will assign those services to the disciples which they are good at, which they prefer to do happily and gratefully without feeling so anxious. So that acknowledgement of Guru's desire and disciples' desire on each other's part is a very sweet aspect of the relationship. Although I am not excited with it, my Guru wants me to do it, let me do it. And Guru will feel, oh, this devotee is good at this, let him do it. So Guru gives preferences to the devotee's disciples' desires, and disciple gives preference to Guru's desires. And Guru sees, oh, this disciple is not so comfortable with this service, let me give this service to another disciple who is more comfortable. So Guru also will distribute services accordingly. That's about Guru. And as far as another senior devotee is concerned, you have little more flexibility. Of course, we need to see the senior devotee also, the representative of Guru, depending on the particular relationship you have with them. But you can also express honestly that, oh, I prefer to do that service, can I do it? But not in the mode of escaping or manipulating them. Honestly expressing one's inability or disinclination to do some service is not a spiritual crime. But diplomatically maneuvering the seniors to make them say what you want to hear, that's a crime. So honesty is the best policy. Let's be honest in our expressions, whether it is yes or no, be humble, be respectful. And before saying no, let's make a humble, honest attempt to do this service to please the other devotee. Whether the devotee is Guru or not, he is a devotee after all. And he is senior to me. Why not honor the words? If I have to stretch myself a little bit to please the devotee, let me do it. But if it's too painful to you, you are unable to function properly while doing that activity, you can always go and express, I'm sorry, these are the difficulties I am facing while doing this service. Can you please change it or give some other service? Or another devotee is good at it, can you please assign it to him? Some solution you present in a positive way, not in a manipulative way. That's fine. Does it make sense? Okay, we'll conclude here. Thank you.
Gauranga Darshan Prabhu ki.